Good afternoon, and welcome to another episode of Wiley Motorsports Entertainment, where today we're going to be talking about the the Vox article that, yeah. If you don't know who Vox is, a left-wing outlet, I'm not sure if they were founded by Van Jones or whatever, but they've been far left-wing as far as I can recall, back to, I think the first time I ever heard of them was before the election of Obama. At any rate, they have an article, obviously intended to pander to their very much left-wing reading audience. Alex Jones lost $1 billion trial. Why is Infowars still streaming? Or translated into English, we punished a guy with nearly $1 billion in a judgment in a court. This should have silenced him. Why is he still being allowed to talk? Because the real world doesn't work that way, you fucking morons. Jones says his enemies want him off the air. Oh, they do. They very much do. U.S. bankruptcy law is on his side for now. Oh, it's going to stay that way. So, number one, as I understand it, and I could be wrong, Alex Jones is going to be appealing this to as high up of his court as he can get it. Likely that this will probably, considering the size of the judgment, this will probably end up going to the Supreme Court. I'd be shocked if it doesn't. And with the current makeup of the Supreme Court, there's no way that this judgment stands. But even if it doesn't, and the judgment somehow stands at the next higher level, appeals level, or whatever, or he somehow doesn't make it to the Supreme Court, he was not sued personally. The company Infowars was sued. So, while these people are quick to group in Alex Jones and his Infowars, he said what he said as an employee of a company, which of course he owns, but as an employee of a company. And the way that laws work in this company is, even if the same way the taxes are filed, the business is separate from the person. I probably don't have to explain this to anyone probably watching this, because you're probably all aware of this. You probably either have your own business, or you work for a business, or you've had to file taxes at some point in your life. Business taxes are separate from regular taxes, where, except unless you're a sole proprietorship, which when I was in Wisconsin was how I ran that business. But most people form an LLC or something else, so that if something bad happens to the company can be damaged for X amount in a lawsuit or whatever else, but the private assets, the home, all of the cars, the whatever else that is owned by the person is separate from the business, and therefore is not subject to whatever damages the company might have to be forced to pay. This is why when a business gets a judgment of some kind that they cannot pay, the business will usually do whatever, people who run the business will usually do whatever they can to try to keep the business alive, but if it's just not possible, the business will just go out of business, and that's it. The people will then go start another business, which is probably what's going to happen in this case. So, Infowars got this nearly $1 billion judgment that it supposedly is supposed to pay to the families. Oh, they might pay something. I don't know, but I would find it highly unlikely that Infowars even has anywhere approaching the amount of money that they were just handed with this very punitive, very swinging appearance of power by the left, and that's what this is really all about. It's a show of power to anyone else who might even think about stepping out of line and fighting the leftist fraudulent narrative. But even these people who are leftist, who wrote this article for Vox, even they understand it's never going to happen. The way that bankruptcy laws work, assuming he loses his appeals, Infowars would just declare bankruptcy. And whatever the assets or whatever finances of the business, they would be decided by a judge, almost certainly a judge in Texas, since that's where Infowars is based. And that judge is not going to be nearly as friendly towards the left-wing side of the aisle, even in Austin, the left-wing side of the aisle, as the judge who decided this crap. But yeah, the assets of the business would be sold off and whatever other things, and likely what would happen is probably what happened to GM in 2008, where GM essentially ceased to exist, legally speaking, and a new company was created that acquired the assets, the production, the machinery, the whatever, everything that General Motors owned. The new company then acquired the assets of GM, but not the debts, including any lawsuits, because there were class action lawsuits that were ongoing against General Motors at that time. All of them were completely wiped the hell out when GM declared bankruptcy. Because how bankruptcy works is, the whole point of bankruptcy is to avoid the person being ruined or the company being ruined by either things that happened to it or things that they may have brought upon themselves. It's supposed to be a second chance, and this applies to corporations, which of course they're going to try to undo, but they're not going to like that because it's going to have some negative effects for companies they operate if they even try to do that. But yeah, in 2009, when Obama came in and whatever, the old GM ceased to exist, and the new GM started to exist, and they, like I said, got all of the assets of the old GM, but none of the debt. All of the debt was either paid by a sale of some things or just canceled out entirely. The point was to allow GM to continue to exist without being saddled by all of the things that had been plaguing the old GM. This also included some union contracts. If they were really smart, they would have reorganized GM in a state that is not subject to unions and therefore canceled out all of their union contracts, which actually would have saved the company permanently, but, they didn't hire me or anti-union people to get involved in that process. But yeah, essentially that's how this works, is new company comes along, new company created out of nothing, comes along, takes the assets of the old company, none of the debts, or very few of the debts, or agreements or contracts, and moves forward. This is essentially what's going to happen to Alex Jones. If assuming it doesn't get to the Supreme Court, Infowars is just going to cease to exist, and he's going to start up a new company, and that new company is going to buy the assets from the old company, which of course people will then take him to court. And like I said, here in Texas, you're not going to find anywhere near as friendly of a judge to the left-wing cause as they got. And the reality is, he's probably not going to have to pay more than a few million. They will effectively mostly cancel out this bullshit. And he might have to pay a few million. We'll pay a ton to the lawyers, but a few million to the families, but that'd probably be about it. Because this is reality. Because you can't sue him personally for what he said, because at the time it was said, he was on a TV show or an internet streaming show that belonged to a company, so he was acting in his capacity as an employee, not as a private citizen, and therefore his private citizen stuff owned by his private citizen, him as a private citizen, are not subject to any part of this. So this crap has been used by left-wing people, right-wing people, anybody, and it's not going to change because it is set up, like I said, for anyone, person or corporation, or small business company or whatever, to be able to escape the things that they owe to a certain point, negotiate with the people they owe money to, and emerge out of that a new entity that can carry on its own existence and continue to provide employment or whatever, or as a private person to continue to pay your debts. So these laws are not going to be changed. I don't know what the left thinks that it's going to try to get away with. These laws are for now. No. So, yeah, and they go on into all the rest of this crap, blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's not going to happen. So, sorry, wrong article there. Anyway, yeah, like I said, it's not going to happen. And you can see it right there. They even have to say, that's not going to happen in the near future, and it's possible it may never happen. You are correct. It's never going to happen. Never going to get it, never going to get it, never going to get it, never going to get it. So, that's all we have for today. I hope you have a fantastic day, and we'll see you on the flip side.